Welcome, everyone. This is Nidal Haykal, your host for episode 6, season 2 of Nidal Haykal Live, with a very interesting guest, Carl Shawn Watkins. Carl is an attorney, aspiring civil rights advocate. He is the CEO of Carl Shawn Watkins Consulting LLC. He's a coach, mentor, speaker, and business culture consultant. Let's welcome the amazing Carl.
Good morning out there. Well, good afternoon here on the East Coast. It is 12 o'clock hour. So good afternoon, man. How are you, man? It's a joy to be on your show. Enjoy everything that you do. And that voice, man, I thought I had a smooth voice, man. Your voice is smooth,
My wife doesn't agree with that.
man. Now tell her, see,
I,
that's a
I,
smooth voice right there.
I don't know why always she silences me.
I
Maybe it's
think that's their power. That's their power, man.
Carl. I'm honored you are with us today. Thank you for your precious time. And
Oh, not a problem.
with you, it's going to be interesting. We're going to dig deep. And
Yes.
Carl, my first question. Anybody browses your profile, especially on LinkedIn, as you are on several social media platforms. The first sentence is, "How can I help you?" It's
Mhm.
on your banner, and your picture is right there. So, Carl, how did you? Um, how it's important to let others know that we are ready to help. You announce it clearly. How important is it to be ready to help others?
I think it's a sign of who you are. That tells people who I am. I'm thinking of others all the time before myself, and that's what represents me. And I feel it's important that a lot of time people do talking and they do announcements and placards and all of those things that exalt themselves, and it is not necessarily done because that's really what the world sees. Like, tell me about you. Tell me about you. And I come from a family of servants, humble people, and their thing to me, and even as a child, their thing was to me was to always try to see what you can do for someone else because there's someone, and I grew up with parents from the South, and they had it kind of rough. But their thing was always understand that there's someone that's worse off than you. So even though you may not have had the things that you see someone else have, you always be in a position to give what you have, regardless of whether that is. And I saw that lived in my house from the time where we had neighbors that would come and borrow items. And I looked at our cabinet and we didn't have a lot, but my mom never said no to anybody.
Wow.
Whatever they came for, whatever they gave them, and that was ingrained in us. So I saw from a child with me and my siblings that it's important to serve. It's important to be of service. But I also saw how that was reciprocated. And when my dad passed, and the whole neighborhood brought food, and everybody came and to the house, and so I kind of saw and I kind of put those two together. That when you put others first, you'll never be left out. It'll
That
always come back to you, and that's how I live my life.
it's you find it like a payback, but on a
Mhm.
humanitarian level. You show
Yes.
you show your you show your help to others, and definitely
Hmm.
others will pay you back one day. It's an amazing feeling. Carl,
Yes.
I want to say hi to Lona.
Lorna, thank you, Lorna, for coming by. Lovely lady, lovely lady.
Amazing, Lona. Lona, you win with us as a first checker with us. Free drinks. Basically, in Connecticut yesterday, I was reading an email from the governor, and it says, if you show the card that you are fully vaccinated, you are entitled to a free alcoholic or non-alcoholic drink. So I think they want
Oh
people to be
wow.
drunk.
Something like that, right? Yeah, I think they've had something like that in New Jersey too. They're offering some restaurants are offering like the first ones out. First people get water ice and things of that nature because they're trying to get people back in some kind of normalcy, and to try to be able to get back together and kind of be like normal people, I guess, normal again, if that's really how you want to call it.
Yeah, Rona wants non-alcoholic.
Yes.
You got it.
I agree. I agree with non-alcoholic is always best. I'm drinking my coffee now, even though it's the afternoon.
Me too. Carl, as we are talking about the pandemic, did you discover anything different in you within the pandemic? Because this year let us slow down and, make rethinking about our life, our projects, our goals. How was the pandemic year contributing to your success?
The the pandemic has been everything to me. And when I say that, I mean in the essence of me finding out who I really am. I looked upon how I was living and how I was, and I tell people a lot of times it's not so much of the material things because I still have the house, I still have the car, I still have those things that I had before the pandemic. Thank God I didn't lose anything, I wasn't foreclosed on anything, and things remain that I was able to sustain myself. But what I look at is how I was able to do an inventory of myself, things that I didn't like, stuff I wanted to change, the person that I had been really running from, based upon just trying to stay busy. The pandemic put me in a place of halt and thinking, perspective, and reflection. So when I got into that space, I started searching out the things that was in me that I didn't really like before, but I never took the time to address. And that's what the pandemic gave me. It gave me time to look in the mirror. I know all the time a lot of people use those cliches, and I'm gonna look in the mirror and change me. I'm gonna make changes to how I feel. But we continue to go past that. I actually sat down with me, and a lot of people may think this funny, but I sat down with me to interview me, and I didn't like a lot of the things I saw. I didn't like some of the ways I had. I didn't like some of the interactions that I had, and that didn't make me a bad person. It's just that I knew I was better, and I knew I had better to offer. And that's really what the pandemic taught me. I had a lot of loss in the pandemic. I lost brother, father-in-law, four cousins. I mean, a total of eight altogether. Family members that I lost during the pandemic. So the pandemic was very hard. At one point, I went to a funeral every other week for about 5 weeks of someone passing. So it was a heavy loss, but it was a
It was.
perspective loss. And I got to understand that the time is not yours. We have people say all the time, you're not promised the next day, but how really much do we believe that? I had a brother that died that I had talked to him the week before. I talked to him that Friday. On that Monday, he was in the hospital. On that Friday, the next Friday, he was dead. So how do we really have that in perspective that we're not promised the next day, and we need to make every day that we're here impactful. We need to impact someone. We need to transform someone. Someone needs to meet us, come in contact with us, and feel different once they left us. And that is really our purpose as humanity, and that's what the pandemic taught me.
How important is to hold into our faith, as I can see behind you, and it's always there. The picture of the Last Supper.
Yes.
Carl, how important is to hold to our faith to break through and get over what we are passing?
It is very important, Adele. I have this picture up here, and like we were talking before the show, I have this picture up here as a statement, and everyone understands the statement. And it's the Last Supper. If you know anything about Christianity, you really understand this picture. But this picture is far more than that. This picture is fellowship among men, among humans. This picture is love. This picture is showing him embracing those that followed him. So when you look at this picture, I see faithfully through my faith that it means more than just this is the last time I'm eating with you guys. It's mean
Exactly.
I'm fellowshipping with you guys. I love you guys. And I think this is what humanity needs to see. That's why it's very important to me that everything that I broadcast live, everything that's shown that I'm on, if someone has me on this show, such as you, or if I'm doing a show. It's important for people to see that behind me because what I'm bringing is fellowship from me to you, regardless of where we are, location, religion, color of our skin. All of those things mean nothing to me because we're fellowships in humans. We're fellowships in humanity. And the faith is what gets me to understand that. It lets me know that we are, whether you call it your higher power, whether you call it Lord, whether you call it Jesus, whether you call it Yahweh, whatever term that you give your God to or the God that you serve to, it's important to understand that it's something that's going on that is above you. And you have to recognize that. Even with the pandemic, a lot of people's like, oh, it's nothing but the flu. I have not been. I'll be 54 in a couple months. I have not been in anything that in my
like this.
lifetime that has shut down the world like this. And I've got to understand here that that is above me. That
It's
is my
above
higher
all
power.
of us, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I looked on the streets of in the beginning stages, the streets of China and the streets of like these cities, New York, Manhattan, like ghost towns. There's never been anything like that we've even when 9/11 came, even the calamities, even with the hurricanes, Katrina and all that, we still had some semblance of civilization. With this pandemic, there were points in times where it looked like nobody lived on the earth. And that got me to really thinking that we have to take advantage of this time. We have to learn something. Something has to be learned here.
Lorna, saying we are one as a human beings.
So true.
I
So
totally
true.
agree. Thank you, Lorna. Carl, before we dig deep in what you do in your business,
Hmm.
consultancy, and many more, um, how much do you consider yourself a vulnerable man,
Hmm.
and how you can take advantage of this vulnerability to build a better foundation to your success?
I always well, I was vulnerable. The problem I had was dealing with the vulnerability, and that is everyone. If you look into yourself and your core values and the things that you understand about you, I take in consideration that vulnerability was not everything that everybody says it was. I
Yeah,
didn't take on everybody's narrative of what vulnerability was, and I think that's what we do. We look at the dictionary version, and we see that it says something hurtful or something that can harm you. I switched that in me and my thinking. I said, okay, well, if I'm vulnerable and I face my vulnerability, then it becomes a superpower
exactly.
because
Wow,
I don't
that's a
let
nice
I don't
address.
let I don't let anyone else obtain that power. So when I use my vulnerability or when I perceive it or I put it on people, I explain to them how I interject that it's strategic. It's like, no, I'm not going to come to you and just pour everything on you. What I'm going to do is address that vulnerability in that situation. It could be something, and I do it a lot with business owners. Business owners have a hard time talking to employees because of the respect level there is, and that's pretty much what it is, and they feel vulnerable about being taken advantage of. And I tell them when the conversation or the communication is there and the customer, and the employee understands that you're the owner, but these are things that you're dealing with. All of those things are key to you guys building a relationship and a foundation. And I use the examples a lot of times in my case study. Look at Walmart, Sam Walton, look at Chick fil A. Look at these companies that integrated being vulnerable and helping and aiding each other to build success. So these
Leadership.
things are proven. Yeah, they are proven. And vulnerability is it's a strong tool because it's really only showing that there's some things that I'm not up to here with. But you, as humanity, you can kind of help me get up to there. And if we work together, there's a lot of things we can solve. But us being a part of me being shameful, me throwing up a facade, that builds a barrier. And when barriers are built, no communication and no resolutions are ever met.
Carl, you are a business culture consultant,
Yes.
and you help mid-level businesses and professionals to elevate to a better and to transform. Um,
Hmm.
how do you see leaders these days? and there's big challenges on the leader, not only
Yes.
to direct the organization or the company, but also, as you said, to interact with the team for a new and transformational levels. How do you do and consult regarding this business culture and leadership?
Well, tell them it has to be the foundation of why and communication. That is the key. That is the key tool that I use. We have to figure out why. Why are we not doing these things that we have not done before? What was the reason why? What was the cause of us not doing that? What was the cause of me not being able to communicate with you as me being your manager, your leader, your CEO, and then you being under me as my subordinate? We once we start conquering those kinds of things and we have those conversations, we've come to the table, Nidal, with a lot of conversations over the midst of this pandemic. And solution wise, I'm not really sure we've even gotten to any, but what I do understand that communication is starting to happen. People are starting to take notice of people's feelings, and the respect level, which would have should have been there from the door, is starting to be there. Now, are there still holes in that? Yes, there are. There's still stubborn people that have to realize that that has to continue, but the conversations have to continue. The vulnerability have to be shown in that, and I am the business owner, but in level of me being the business owner, I need the employee.
Yeah.
Yes, my name is on the billboard outside, but without you guys integrating and showing love with what you do inside, it doesn't produce a product that I can be happy with. And this is where we have to go. This is where I go with the conversation of saying, what makes you happy about being here? I ask people that. That's the first question that I ask. What makes you excited about your business? What makes you excited about doing your business? And if they can't give me an answer to that, then we have to go exactly. Then we have to go to the why. Why? What are you doing? Why are you doing the things that you're doing that is not making you happy? And I had to do that with my own self, like I said, with my perspective. And I teach everyone that I train, everyone that I coach, everyone that I consult. Start with an inventory of self, because if you're
Wow.
not happy, regardless of anything that you're doing, you're not going to be successful in it. I don't care if it brings you millions of dollars in finances. I don't care if you're able to buy homes and yachts. If you're not, starting with you, if you're not happy, none of that will bring happiness. None of that will bring success. None of that will bring joy. None of that, first of all, won't bring peace. So if you start with the why and you do that with the employees, engage them, let them see that this is a communal thing. If we build community at the workplace instead of levels and hierarchies, we'll be more better relationship wise. It'll grow. Our business will grow. The correlation to me showing you some vulnerabilities will grow. It's okay to come in sometime and say, I'm not really having a bad day. I mean, a good day, guys. But what we're going to do, we're going to persevere. We're going to move forward. I'm going to let you guys know how I'm feeling. And we're going to communicate. And that's really the effective way. But if you got to start with self.
I sometimes I find it is a necessity that
Mhm.
just like the organizations and the corporates, they need a lawyer right next to them. Also, by law, they should enforce it to get somebody, to always help the company regarding their culture, their leadership, as a consultant, as a mentor, as a coach. Um, you know, like the big companies, they control the world now. Be not
Yes,
not only because of the assets they have, but also with what they are providing of value or brands and how people are reacting. Like for example, I even if let's say Apple tomorrow it's gonna release a plastic bag, people is gonna react like it has to do nothing with the why of the company, right? But
you're right.
this tremendous influence on the population should be, like in a certain way, um, directed for the best of the consumer. So,
Absolutely.
Carl, do you focus on the organization in total, or you try to focus on the leader of the organization and the other steps it's going to be easier with what you do regarding the business culture consultancy.
Well, when I come in to do Nidal, when I come in to do the culture part of that, I begin with the individual because of course we have to start at the top and we have to work with the change because oftentimes change will happen once hierarchy change.
Yeah,
And I don't think that we really realize the power that have that leaders and CEOs and those that are on the top have because when your attitude change, your perspective change, it's not a hard thing to change those below you because we have to bear in mind that they're the ones that they're taking orders from us.
yes,
They're being directed by us. They're being led by us. They're being told their responsibilities by us. So if we engage and understand how we have to be different in explaining, different in conversations, directing, delegating, if we start at the self with that knowledge, then it spreads out. Because once I see it, and it's just like anyone that's looking and understanding. If I go to work and my manager is having a horrible day, doesn't that flow downward? Everybody that comes in contact with anybody that comes in contact with that owner, that CEO, anyone that comes within there, they're either walking on eggshells. They don't know what to say. There's tension in the office. All of those things, and you know who brought that in?
the,
The manager
the manager.
who came, or the CEO who came in with attitude. So there lies the big part of what we don't see. We try to blame it, and one side blames the other side. But those that are in charge can make things better for those who are being led. And in the essence of that, it's not so much as throwing a lot of money on the table, which I'm in the midst of seeing that now in New Jersey. These jobs and these places they're offering these kids that used to come home from college 13 and 12 hours an hour. Now they 16, 17 with signing bonuses and all of this to work. And these kids are not going to these jobs because they wasn't felt appreciated when they were at the jobs in the beginning.
Yes,
And now they understand because people are wise. They understand that, oh, you need me now. So now you want to. So what's us as leaders, us as business owners, us as those in charge, we have to understand the importance of those that work for us. Because regardless of however it was, if you were able to be a businessman and do everything yourself, you wouldn't have needed employees. I mean, just really, it just really comes to that point. So therefore, you need them to do what you need to do. You need them, and you want them to ingratiate themselves in that. I want you to come to where I own a business, and I want you to feel like everything you does in this business is part of you. Everything you put out is you. I want you to love what you're putting out. And all of that takes is respect, communication, and understanding vulnerabilities in people.
do
And
you,
that's what I try to get them to see.
do you find it easy to let's say to mentor or coach the leader, because it's like everything when you are building, you start with
Mhm.
the foundation and you go up, except
Right.
when it comes in within the management, it's like going backwards from the pyramid.
Mhm.
You start from the top and you go down. So is it hard to convince the leaders that you should change this, work on this, you know?
Not with examples. It's hard when you say it and you talk and they've been ingrained in that kind of thought from day one. But then that's why I break down everything, and that's why I'm so entwined into the why communicate. Those two essence are key, and they're definitely more key in breaking down than building up.
Yes,
Because when you're building up, there's avenues for saying, okay, I may do this because I'm fearful of this, or I may not do that because I'm fearful of that. But once you're on top and there's no one to tell you anything, then you have to break down the why. Then you have to communicate that why. And that is, okay, nobody wants to deal with me. Why? Let's talk about that. Why do I always have a problem when we go to the conference meetings? Why is there always
why is there
tension?
is tension? Yeah,
Yeah, why is there tension when I enter the room? Then you have to incorporate themselves to you. And regardless of however we look at it, business, life, it's interactive because it's you. And you have to take advantage of that. So I often find it actually entertaining and revealing when I talk to CEOs because they know that, but they have lost focus with that. So they know once you bring that out and you revealed it and say, oh, okay, what about the tension that goes on here? Oftentimes I get a chuckle, or oftentimes I get, oh man, you know what? Yeah, I did used to do that.
Yeah,
I wonder what happened. And then you go to that why. Okay, well, what came about that changed that? So when that come about, let's have a plan next time. Let's diffuse that next time. Let's do these steps next time. And then let's ingratiate your team to let you know. And it's nothing wrong with that. I come in a lot of times and I say, yo, I'm just not feeling it today, guys. So I just want you guys to know I'm not coming off on you hard. I'm not being snotty or snobbish. I'm not being snappy. Just today, I'm just kind of feeling it. And sometimes I come in and I let people know that right after I say good morning. And then I go sit in the office and I look around and someone to come to the door. Carl, man, I bought you this, man. Drink this coffee. We're gonna get this work done. Don't worry about it, man. You're having a bad day. Then people can empathize with you. But I come in from the door. I don't say good morning to nobody. I'm slamming the doors. I'm angry. I go in my office, pull the doors and slam it. Then I have made an atmosphere for people to not enjoy what they're doing. And
definitely.
that's what we have to do as business owners. We have to have those that work for us enjoy what they're doing, and they will give us their all. They really will.
Carl, I didn't ask you, but before we start, we are strict to
Mhm.
the 30 minutes, or we can
Okay.
go over. Uh, you tell me.
It is up to you, my friend. It is up to you. I've allotted this time. I know that it was 30 minutes, but sometimes conversations get good, so to speak. So I tell people like when they're on my show, I normally run 45 to an hour. I've had shows last longer than an hour, but I try to keep it because I'm always cognizant of the next person's time. But yes, if we want to talk a little longer, we can. If you have more questions, definitely
Okay.
we can.
LinkedIn, YouTube, prepare. We are staying all day talking, me and Carl. Carl,
Yes,
Carl, do you have a good relation with your ego?
I do now. I did not
Wow,
before.
wait a second. This is a big statement. I do now. So
Mhm.
that's a big statement. Can you tell us
Yeah.
how was it and what transformed this relationship?
Transforming the relationship came, and I don't want to blame everything on the pandemic, but man, pandemic was heavy for me. If people didn't get what they needed from it, I feel sorry for you. And when I say that, I don't mean that as in pity. I'm just saying that of a missed
As a
opportunity.
support, yeah.
It's a missed opportunity that you didn't take advantage of, and regardless of whatever you needed from it, the pandemic provided it. You just had to find it, and you had to search it and see what it was. And my ego was definitely there, even in my relationship and my marriage, my relationship with my children. It's kind of hard to have a relationship with adult children sometimes. And being a parent, if you have an adult child, you understand what I'm saying, because you never leave behind the parenting. But
Yeah.
now yeah, it's an adult with their own ways and their own habits and their own suggestions and comments and criticisms. So relationships sometimes are a knockhead kind of thing. But what I realized in dealing with them and being able to be around everyone without the distractions of going here, going there, ripping and running, those kind of things, I got to actually be an active listener into conversations. And that being an active listener changed my ego because things they were saying to me before, I wasn't listening because I wanted to hear what I wanted to hear. And when you hear what you want to hear, that's ego. When
It
you
is.
hear nothing what no one else says, that's ego. When
I
you
love the
think
way
you
you
have it
address
all
it.
together, yes. When you think you have it all together, that's ego. So what I started doing was saying, okay, let me hear what they're saying to me. And I just started listening in conversations. I started not waiting to speak, but I started listening to them speak. I stopped waiting for my chance to rebut what they had to say, but I started taking in and interpreting what they were saying. And once I started doing that, our relationship started to flourish. I started to understand why these things were. And a lot of it was me. It wasn't them. They didn't change.
So
And then yeah. And once that took place, it just blossomed out. And then I just started putting everybody into that bubble. The people I didn't listen before. Like I went out of my home. The ones I interact with every day, the ones I'm on calls with every day, the ones that I'm doing business with every day. Then I started doing them in those relationship patterns. That's all of this was ego. So now I had a conversation with ego. I check you at the door. I check you at the door. Not, it's a code check. It's not even a code check. It's like, okay, you can't come in because you cause havoc. And once we understand that the ego does that, that's why I say I can understand that now. But it took this, and it took me to do the work. Believe me, I just want to tell everyone that's watching and those who are going to see this on the replay, it takes work. So if you're not committed to doing the work, don't play with it.
Yes.
Go into a full force saying, I'm committed to change. I want to be different and do the work to be different because you can write books on trying to change, but you can't write books on actually changing because you have to do that work. And
You
that's
need
what has to be done.
you need to walk the talk, right?
Yes, yes. And it's important to live it because it brings power to what you're doing. And a lot of people don't realize that. Martin Luther King preached and said in his speeches, a lot of people say, oh, he was educated, he was eloquent. Yes, those things were true, but he brought power to what he said because he lived what he said. And when I say that, he lived the marches, he lived the battles, he lived the fights, he lived the journeys. So when he got up on that pulpit or stage or whatever it was, when he gave those speeches, you could feel the fire of that in that because he felt it through experience. And that's why I talk and I say and I speak like I speak it from experience because someone can gravitate to that. It's not a show, and I hate when people say, "Oh man, you're a great storyteller." No, I'm a great life teller. I tell life lessons. I'm not a storyteller. I share
And
life lessons.
this is the big difference. It comes from experience. It's not just
Yes.
sometimes, like creating content.
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
what make it authentic and definitely more valuable. Carl, as civil rights activist and advocate, last year, when everything happens, there was the Black Lives Matter
Hmm.
arise, and it looks like just like everything in history, it takes time to heal from our past, sorrows and what we suffer. How do you react to such movement? And I came new to USA.
Hmm.
I'm in USA from almost 10 years. I want to live here, and I want to live in a society where we are all equal, and I want to contribute to make this happen in anything I can. My question is, if you follow the arise of the movement, Black Lives, and I was telling you, I was in April in Washington. It's right there on the
Yeah.
buildings and everywhere because it's serious. It's not just a title. But I'm seeing these days that this title is vanishing. Like no one is talking about it. This is one part of my question, and the other, how you personally, advocate regarding this.
I think that man, he raised a very good topic, and that is what I've been telling people pretty much from the beginning. Uh, it has to be it has to be a message, and I understand that we get the message and we get it, and it's elevated or it's escalated when things happen. But it has to be a message of consistency, just like content. We can't when someone gets killed or it's police brutality or then everybody jump on the campaign. When presidencies campaign, they have a term and a time. They use that time. Most of them start like about maybe 18 or so months out before the election actually happens. In that time, they're working on strategies all the way up to the election. This is how I view the Black Lives Matter movement. It can't be that this is an atrocity to what has happened. Now we're going to march. Okay, it died down. A conviction was met. But in the essence of what really shows us how important it is to be consistent in it and to be consistent with the message, what are we really trying to do? Am I angry? Am I angry because me as a black man, I've been stopped millions of times. I've had my pockets rifled. I've been thrown against. I've lived that, so I understand it. So you can't come to me and say, "Carl, well, you talking like you don't know or you don't talk." Look, I done been in it. I done been in it. I stood on the corners. I sold drugs before I was the Carl that you see. I was in trouble. Just God bless that I never had to spend time in jail. I was never incarcerated or locked up. I was never caught. I just fortunate things happened that I got out of that, and so it was more for my life. So I've lived through that, but my constant message has been even to those that I talk to and I deal with at-risk youth, and I try to get them to see that we don't need to be statistics. We need to be solving problems. We need to be moving forward. We need to have solutions, and having solutions it take more than conversation. Once I get off the phone with you, or if I get off of the conversation with my white counterpart, what have we entered into to make plans to do something? It's not so much as me keep giving you that, oh, this is how I feel. And you take that and say, oh, okay. And then you go about your way and I go about mine. And see, this is really what the Black Lives movements have been. And this is no disrespect to what they're doing because it's an enlightenment that people have to understand. But I think how it gets to that point where it's shouted out here, we hop and skip to events.
Yes.
We hop and skip to, destinations and location, and we can see how important it is for consistency because during the George Floyd trial, another young black man was killed in the midst of that, intertwined in
Exactly.
that. So that's an eye opener to me to say we have to be consistent in what are we doing as a message. We have to be consistent with getting partners in, and that's the white privilege or whatever term that you want to give it. And we have to be consistent with saying, okay, such as an election. All year long, we're going to be having events. All year long, we're going to be talking about it. All year long, we're going to be advertising it. And start year by year, start day by day. But let's incorporate those. Let's have meetings. Let's talk. Let's put about resolutions. Let's get some solutions going on. Let's say these things are going to be different. These are the ways that we want to approach things, and it's happening slowly. And I know it's with everything. It's a drive, and with every ethnicity. Sometimes being African American, it seems like they're put above you. They just signed a bill. Was the last one? I think Congress last week. I'm sorry, Congress and the House they got together and they put this bill together about hate crimes and Asians
Yes.
because it's Asian.
And
Because of the month it's Asian. And I'm saying to myself, okay, that was fast, that was fluid, that was quick. Why are we still not doing these things with Black Americans? What is the disconnect there? And once again, it goes back to the why and communicate. Once we start addressing these whys, not from a political standpoint, not from a financial standpoint, but from a humanity standpoint, let's start addressing these whys. Why do I feel different about you because of the color of your skin? What reason do I have though if you take me to the hospital and I'm B positive, and I take you to the hospital and you be positive, I can use your blood to survive. So
wow.
why, if that's so interior, that is us in same symmetry, why do we put so much on us exterior looking different? So when we
So,
start asking ourselves those whys and we face those whys and we really want to get an understanding of those whys, I think we'll move forward to some solutions.
so, my understanding is you are not happy with the movement because, as you said, it's on and off regarding what incidents are there.
Yes, and
Is,
yes,
is that
I
is,
don't
is
see
that
it as a consistency.
is that correct? My question is, we need more work regarding this, right? Because
Yes,
there's no equality and there is racism.
yes,
And one more thing,
absolutely. And we,
do
mhm.
you agree with the term people of color instead of
Yes,
like
yes,
if because let me tell you something. I consider myself, a person of color. I
hmm
consider you a person of color. But why now the replacement? Like I like the minute you mention the word black,
Hmm.
There is horizon flashes that watch it, you are entering, a racism area, right? This is the general mood. And
Hmm.
they came now like it's not okay to say black person, but it's okay to say like man of color or woman of color. And this is something, like provokes me because it's doing nothing. It's not neglecting the racism, like we have to
Right.
stop dealing with each other with differentiations. Like, you understand my
Absolutely.
point? Like,
And that
how do
is
you,
that is definitely my point.
as a civil, rights activist, I think this is should be, like, on fire topic. As you said, it needs consistency. It need the political layers to be involved, changing laws. Like the other day, I think not far, like a couple of months ago, a lawyer won a
Hmm.
case to take off the dictionary the term nigger. I'm right. I read that on the news.
Yes.
Viva. So we need not only by provisions, we need practices, and this doesn't
Absolutely.
come from labeling people. Like I hate labeling people because labels lasts. It's hard to take off the label, and if you take it, it's gonna leave a mark. So basically, you're not doing anything. The best
Mm.
cure is not to label. We are one. As you said, we have the same blood. We can live transforming this blood from one to each other, regardless of your ethnicity, race, or what color. What's your thoughts on this, Carl? I'm, like interested in knowing.
I definitely agree, and you hit a lot of very good points and topics on there. I agree with the color of purple. I mean, the color people of color.
People of
I
color.
agree with I agree with that term for the simple fact that's what we are, and that's more so informative than it is labeling. And when I say that, because it's been so much as
Hmm.
and now the ingratiation of other ethnicities. And I think when we say people of color, that's really the understanding that people get the ethnicities or should get. I don't say that they do get it, but they should get it. And I agree with the labeling. If we can get away from that, and we can get away from labeling, and we can start dealing with the
As a
actual
humans,
issues
like we are
as
all on the
humans.
same line.
And it seems like so many people understand this, but there's not action toward this. And this is really what it was. And if you look at it, just look at all the civil rights activists, attorneys, and whatever, those that that feed into this, or not necessarily feed, but those that are activists and those that are involved, they come from a place of disadvantage. And when I say that, they're at the place where there's an understanding on their side, but the side that they're dealing with, there's no understanding. And why there's no understanding, I have friends that are white, and I let them understand and say, okay, these are the things that I put out examples. So you see how this happened, and you see how that happened. You see the difference. We had an incident in Philadelphia right before the beginning of May. A gentleman a white gentleman. He stole a U-Haul truck, a huge U-Haul truck.
Mhm.
He drove through the streets of Philadelphia, crashing cars, almost running over police. All of this. Do you know they arrested him without incident? They blocked in the truck, pulled him from the cab, put handcuffs on him, took him away. Now you say that in a city that's like 90% black, which is Philadelphia, and you say, okay, well, someone got pulled over a traffic stop, he's black, y'all shot him down in the middle of the street. Here, this gentleman is got a U-Haul, ran over, tried to attempt to run over cops when they ran up to it to try to take him out. He backed up over police cars. He did much of that. He even ran into a couple of restaurants. They had outside seating.
Wow.
They arrested this gentleman without any incident. There was no gunshots. There was no pepper spray. There was no beating him up after he got out of the vehicle. They pulled him out, threw him against the truck, and put handcuffs on him, walked him to the police car. So you have to ask yourself, what was the difference?
What's the difference?
Why
Yes.
was there a difference? Why do you think that it was necessary, or why do you feel that you had the right to, with this young black kid, pull him out the car, he runs off, you shoot him in the back, versus this gentleman that has just tried to kill a few of you guys with this vehicle, and you felt it was justified in you just taking him, handcuffing him, and walking him to the police car. I mean,
Do
they
you
didn't
think
do anything to him.
do you think it's the mentality or the procedures?
Absolutely. It's the mentality, because the procedures are, and if you look at some of the procedures in law, and a lot of people don't understand, a lot of those things are in the books of what you're
Yes.
supposed to do. But see, they get taken out when it's put to the street, and those that's in the essence of doing it have cooperations from those who know that's not right to do it. So you have to get to a point and say, yo, I got to say something. This is not correct. You can't have one person standing on the neck of one people, and there's five of us as police officers, and no one mentioned that this isn't how we do this. This isn't how we're trained to. And we have to shatter that. We have to shatter that cloak and dagger, so to speak. Hey, you don't say nothing, you don't say nothing, because you know we together. We can't go against each other. No, it has to be, and we have to get back to what's right and what's wrong. And I think that's really where the lines has blurred versus the action, because it's in there how you should perform your duties. It's in the handbooks. It's in there. The officer said at the trial, chokeholds are no longer, they're no longer a part of.
The
So how do you
execution
feel that?
the execution
Yeah,
part is totally different. Yes.
right,
And
right,
I can
absolutely.
see it. Yesterday I was in an area, and um, uh, the cops were trying to, I don't know, the first investigation, the guy's still in the car, but there was like
Mhm.
10 police cars, and I thought of this question when I've seen this scene, because as a person, I'm asking, why is this precautions, like the
Mhm.
minute the minute um to be honest with you, it's delicate for me. Like, I don't know how to address, if I'm talking about a black person, what should I say? A black person, a man of color,
No, that's
because
fine. However you want to say it.
like
However
like
you want to
like
say
you
it. And
un-
see, that's what we
like
got
you
to
un-
get away
you
from.
understand my point. Like, it's
Hmm.
really as if you are dancing between the raindrops. No matter what you do, no matter what you do, you will get water, because he's a human being no matter what. And your
Right.
job is to take the risk, whether he's a criminal or not. You
Right.
understand my point? So, I think you are right. The procedures are in the books, but on the ground, in the field, the mentality should be curbed and should be, educated more. And I think this is a big work, right?
Yes, yes, absolutely. It's a huge job, and but it has to begin. It has to begin, because we're losing too many in the thought processes, and how we are doing it, and how we're defining how we do our work has to change. It has to change up here, and then it has to change with actions. It has to be those that's not afraid to say, "Okay, I got to tell on my blue code or my blue wall, like that's not right." And someone has to stand up and say, "Okay, well, maybe there is consequences to that. There's always consequences to going against the grain." Whether it be
Yes.
something as simple as you going against your wife in your house, until you going to
God
get your
forbid,
boss at
Sean.
your job.
God forbid. God forbid.
There are consequences. So it's how you want to deal with those consequences. Are you going to say, okay, I'm gonna stand on the side of right, regardless of what this costs me? Because at the end, standing on the side of wrong is gonna cost you too. It may not cost you right then, but it's gonna cost you.
It will come back. Yeah. No, I've
Yeah,
been there.
definitely.
Car- Car-
Definitely.
Carl, do you have a good relation with money?
Yes, I think so.
How do you address?
I think
How do you? How? I'm not trying, to unleash your tax reports. Presidents are not unleashing this.
so. Yeah. No, I have a good relationship to it, because
But
I
how do you
understand it.
address your relation with? Is it a goal to have money, or it's a result of hard working? What do you teach your kids about. I'm sorry to say kids, but they're gonna stay kids in our,
Yeah,
as
all the
parents.
time, all the time,
But
all
with
the
all
time.
respect to them,
Mhm.
like you are an old man now. You have grandchildren or not yet?
No, not yet,
Not
not
yet.
yet, not
Right.
yet. No.
How do you
Um.
how do you advocate about money?
I the basis is the education part of it, and that's not just going to get an education. That's the education foundation of what money does. And if you're smart about what money does, then you apply it to those things that build you. Like I tell my kids, build legacy, build something that someone can do, something that benefits someone, something that it can enable and help others once you have gone.
Yes.
That's why I think of money. So if you come into money and you play the lottery or whatever you do, build something substantial. Don't just go buy a big yacht or go buy particular cars that you want, but build something substantial that allows someone else, humanity, to benefit from once you have gone off the scene. And I think that makes the impact. Of course, we need money, and we know money is the byproduct of us being able to sustain the things we need in life. But the essence of money, it can't be something that moves everything that we do. I can't say that I want to make an impact on life, but I'm only going to do it if I get a paycheck. Or if we all felt like that, then who would be doing anything? Honestly, who would be doing anything with the right intentions? So I would say, because you would have people doing anything, but who would be doing anything with the intention of saying, you know what, regardless of this, like we just say that we're talking about King, we just use King. Say, okay, yeah, I'm sure he didn't have a paycheck to do those marches. And if he did, it was something substantial that it wasn't worth his life. I don't think it was worth him getting killed and shot down for, if you want to talk about the monetary value. But what he did and what he left behind is way more valuable than any dollars they could have put in his pocket.
Yes,
And this is how I've taught my kids, regardless of what it is. Yes, you need a job. Yes, you need an income. Yes, you need. But if you don't do anything, I tell them in a minute. If you offer me a job for $1 million and I'm unhappy, or you offer me a job for 50,000 and I get peace and joy, I'm taking the job with peace and joy. Because eventually, working on that unhappy job, that $1 million, it all becomes a heartache. And regardless of the financial stability I have, it's a heartache. But if I take that 50,000, I know that's guaranteed. I'm enjoying what I'm doing. I'm making an impact. That 50K looks real good. It looks real good. So that's how I advocate with them on that. That's how I've educated them on that. That's how I've trained them to look at money is a bridge, such as a lot of things that you'll have in life. They're a bridge from one place to another place, and how you use that bridge will transform those that you interact with, those that you're around, and it transform yourself. That's
Uh,
it.
Carl, do you have any political ambitions?
Not at this time. I've been asked.
Aha,
I've been,
aha.
I
It's a
have been
tricky
asked,
question. You
but not
see,
at this time.
you are answering politically now. You're not closing the door, or opening it wide open. You're keeping it,
Mhm. I have aspirations for change, and I'm smart enough to understand that a lot of times that happens within the framework of politics, because they have so much influence on our everyday life, and
you
and that is with laws, making laws, advocating for laws, proposing laws. Those things have great consequence on our everyday life. So when I say that it's not a closed door, the more I say that it's not a closed door, the more I look at it. How else can I make the changes? How else? What avenue can I go into? I can go on a corner and I can march and I can and say that, and after a while, there may be some ordinance that I broke. There may be some law that I'm not abiding by, and then that has to end. But when you get into the realm of where the game is, and I oftentimes tell people I saw Hamilton 4 times, so I love it. It's I want to be in the room where it happens. So that that that
where
would
they cook.
yeah. Yes, the room where things is done, and then therefore I think your word has strength, your word has purpose, your thoughts and ideas have purpose. When you're in the room and you're able to share those, and people are able to hear those, I think they're heard. A lot of times, I mean, there's many before me that have came in, and it'll be probably many after me that will come, but. I think to make change, you have to get in the game, and us getting in the game
Not
is we
necessary. I
no. When I'm saying no, when I'm saying no, you can make
oh
the changes without politically, but
yeah.
you have to be in it. And when I'm saying it, you have to
Oh,
be in it.
now
You
I
have to be
understand. Yeah,
involved. Yeah, you have to be involved. You have to direct the traffic. You have to be in the place of where action is going to eliminate conversation because we have to communicate. We found out the why. It's racism in the land. I don't care how you want to play it. I don't care how you want to put it. I don't care how you want to kind of cover it up, face
we
paint or
can't
whatever.
we can't deny it. It's there.
It's there. Okay,
Yeah,
so let's get that understanding that it's there. That's
yeah,
the why. It's there. Racism is there.
yeah.
Okay, now we have to communicate. How do we dissolve it? What
Exactly.
avenues do we take to dissolve it? And once we've communicated that, which we have for how many years now, let's start doing some action toward resolving it. Let's do it together. Like you got, if me and you are on this broadcast and we have an understanding that I'm going to meet you at 12 and we're going to talk about discussions. Okay, we've communicated it. Why? We're talking about what we're talking about. Next, there's action. We actually had the broadcast and now we're actually discussing it. And that's how simple it has to be for those that's involved on higher levels. They have
Yeah.
to know that it's just that simple. You just have to get people together. You guys decide on a common bound and you guys act on that.
It's
It's not left wing, white wing, this party, that party. It's not that. Let's get together as humans and say, okay, what's best for all of us?
it's a roadmap, and it needs steps. We don't have you to achieve the roadmap in one session, but at least to take action, because I think after all these historical incidents and suffers, I think it's good
Mhm.
to take action, and they are doing, but the rhythm of the action is too slow. I think
Yes.
they need to expedite it, because look, as you mentioned earlier, like this year there was also the hatred towards the Asian ethnicities,
Mhm.
which is also indicates ignorance. Like what how you can deal in front of these incidents. We
And
need
it
more
keeps going.
we need more education. Not
Mhm.
going to the colleges, here in your mind, like we are equal and
Absolutely.
stop. Like Carl. Uh, where and how anybody can find your valuable content? I know you are on social media, and you have
Yes, I am.
your website. By the way, I love the. I thought I wrote first your website, Carl Shawn, and then I said, wait a minute, it's dailyword.com. It's impressive. This
Yes.
is this is the webpage for your consultancy business, right?
Yes, because what I give to you is a daily word. It's throughout the consulting. It's throughout that. I've had avenues, and I'm still tinkering on maybe change it to carlshawwalkersconsulting.com. But I wanted it to catch your eye. And I'm kind of like intentional. If people have not know, people not know, I'm sort of like people laugh all the time and say, "Man, I think you don't do nothing happenstance," and I don't. I take
Yeah.
everything into consideration when I do something, even
But
from the
it's
portrait on the back to, I take all that in consideration. I say, okay, well, they see my name in consulting, it brings about the sameness of what everybody else puts on their name. I say, okay, let's go with daily word and tell them what I do.
but it's a
Now
it's
there's
a
a
big
peak of an interest.
it's a big commitment, daily. It's a
Yes,
it's a big
and
commitment.
that's the accountability part of it, Nadal. That what keeps
Absolutely.
me accountable, and that's what it needs. And I put that in my own accountability. Whether it's a daily post, whether it's a daily video, whether it's a daily session with a client, it's something that on the frame of mind, I'm on it all the time. And we use the term sometime in business. I know you probably heard it. We on the grind.
Yeah.
That's what we are. And the grind is daily because at any point in time, if I stop, it stops. So it has to be daily. It has to be daily.
So where the audience can find your content, right?
They can find me at
Like you are. I
Crossroads
know.
Daily Break.
Yeah, I know you are on
Yeah.
LinkedIn, and
Yes, LinkedIn. They can find me at Carl S. Watkins 1 on LinkedIn. Go look up the post, the website. On the website, you'll find the consulting services where they are coach, consultant, speak, and mentor. There's services. So these are the services that I offer. There's programs on there. You can book a call with me. You can set up consultations with me, and we can go over a strategy that will work for either you as in self, individual, or business. And we can work on that part of you that the leadership is having a problem engaging, or we can work on that part that you're struggling with your culture in your business, in essence, so how it relates to vulnerability and growing those leadership areas. So,
Carl, before we hit the hour, and
yes.
it's weekend. I don't want you. Damn you. We have plans. I really,
Yes.
really appreciate the time you gave me and the audience today. I love talking to you and chatting on viral topics. I just want to make a little note that, and it's in your bio on LinkedIn, that you are a survival of uh, a triangle that can
Yes.
destroy anybody. But look, where is Carl Shawn? You are a survival of addiction, of
Mhm.
abuse, and there's third one,
Depression.
and depression. To be
Mhm.
honest with you, I have couple questions about that. And I
Mhm.
decided while talking to you not to ask you about them because you know what? I'll take the titles like you are a survival. I don't want to go back to this,
Mhm.
but I want to focus on Carl today, the survival, and who I see is making the world where we are living a better place to live. And I'll
Thank you,
leave it
Nidal.
for you, whatever you want to say regarding this. It's all yours, Carl.
That is a reflection of where it is, Nadal, and it is my past, and I'm not ashamed of it. And this made me who I am, and with the help of God, it has transferred and translated who I am a product of. The product of my environment does not say who I shall become.
Yes,
And that's the example that through my business, through working, is what I want people to see. You can have things in the back. If you look at it, even in biblical, if you look at it, Moses, David, all of them had transgressions and things that went on in their past, but they were still used of God because of the abilities that which God gave them and ingratiated in them. And if we look upon people in those areas that they're doing and changes in their lives have been made, then it's definitely we've got to give them the opportunity to show what changes have been. So I will never condemn anybody for anything. I am the last one to, based upon a lot of things that I've done in my life. But what I can say that there's a difference that can be made, and with the help of God, you can make that difference if you apply the things to your life. And that's what I've done. I've applied it to my life, and I'm a living witness as to anyone can see. Changes can be made. You can be a better person.
it needs determination.
Yes, absolutely.
Carl, I really appreciate the time and
I
the lead
appreciate you tonight.
and the added value for today. I hope we will stay connected and
Absolutely,
we,
absolutely.
we will be together in the future soon. And
Yes,
I wish you, peace, and I
you
wish
as well.
wish you to be safe all the time.
You
Thank
as
you
well, no
again,
doubt.
and enjoy your weekend, Carl.
Thank you. You too. You and the family as well. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So this was Carl Shawn Watkins, and I enjoyed discussing with him viral topics. Carl is an amazing person, and I forgot to take his permission to end this stream with a quote from his bio. I think he will allow me. And the quote is successful persons lay the foundation of their success from the bricks that others have thrown at them. The credit to you, Carl Shawn Watkins. Thank you again for being with us today. And to my audience, stay tuned for an amazing guest tomorrow, Sunday. And enjoy your weekend, everyone. This was Nidal Haykal, and my guest was Carl Shawn Watkins. Thank you.